Hello and welcome to the TMWC Activity Professional Academy here in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. My name is Tim Anderson and this is your monthly activities tip. When we talk about activities and how to do programs for the residents, we talk about how activities are not just things to fill their day. They are things that have purpose and meaning to the people participating in them, and also they have a therapeutic benefit to them. One of the best ways to make sure that you're keeping a purpose in your programs is by creating an activities plan for every activity that you run, taking time to plan that activity. When I plan my activities, I like to use a tool which is based off of a concept that we have in the education world, which is the lesson plan. And I've created a similar tool that you can use on your own that is a free printable. You can get it actually through the link down in the description box below, but I'll show you a copy of it. This is it right here. And by the way, if I keep looking over in this direction, it's because I have my notes over here on this side of the computer, and I just want to make sure I get everything in. So I'm going to slide over here so you can see both me and the sheet, and I'm going to bring it just a tad closer. So you'll see that the activities plan that I've created here, the sheet that I've created, has like 4 main components. And the first one over here is your goals. Your second is your objectives. The third are your requirements, and your fourth are your materials/procedure. I didn't put /procedure here because I put a little note on the bottom that says you can do that on the back. The reason for that is because procedures tend to be longer, or we often, if we find programs online that we like to use, we might print a procedure offline, but then just make sure that that procedure matches up with everything we have here on the front. So let's go through each one of these sections individually. Let's start up here with our goals. So the goals in an activity plan are kind of the broad target areas of the activity. Like, what are the major things that we need to do? And for this, one of the places you can look is the federal regulation in nursing related to activities and what activities are. And when we are creating programs, some of the 3 main components that are listed in the F tag are physical, psychosocial, and mental. But in addition, there's wording that also mentions encourage independence and encourages interaction in the community. If you read further on in those regulations, it defines activities. 3 other things that it talks about are promoting education, encouraging pleasure, and improving self-esteem. So all of those things can go in this section here for your goals. Now, obviously, every activity could technically fall under those categories depending on how you wanted to do it. But what you're doing in this case is you're picking the specific goals that you want to target with this specific program. And you can change that anytime you do the program, which might modify how you do the procedure too, because how you write your procedure or how you write your goals will determine what your procedure is like. The next section over here are your objectives, and your objectives are the individual steps in the activities which are going to meet this goals or all of these goals over here. And it's important to note that the goals and the objectives of the activities need to be connected in some way. You can't just have, physical exercise or physical over here and then have something like, social interaction over here. They have to be connected somehow. So let's say your goal over here is physical, specifically fine motor skills, that improve or maintain fine motor skills. So over here in the objective section, the residents are going to exercise fine motor skills by picking up small objects or using small tools, such as a craft activity. If your goals are things like encourage interaction in the community, then over here you might use something like use verbal communication skills by answering questions and talking with other residents. If your goal over here is to encourage pleasure, then over here you might want to have listen to music which is pleasurable to the resident in order to relieve anxiety, because that's in which case you would also include mental or psychosocial over here because that is related to that objective. So once you've created your goals and your objectives, the next step is to look at your requirements. So your requirements are the skills that your residents need to possess in order to be successful with this activity. So, for example, if you are doing an activity that's a craft and you know that one of the main requirements is that residents need to, first of all, enjoy creative projects. If they don't enjoy creative projects, they're not going to get any benefit from this activity if they don't like to do it. The other thing is, let's say you're doing a craft activity which is related to making centerpieces for the dining room tables for a particular holiday. Well, one requirement is that it might be that a resident um, might enjoy doing projects that are useful for the community. Another thing, if you're doing something that's fine motor, maybe you do something like able to use their hands. The resident must be able to use their hands to pick up small objects, either independently or with assistance from staff. And with that, that's another thing that needs to go in here. If you have a resident that would really benefit from this, but they need a lot of assistance or adaptations, this is where you could write that, because it will help you when you also go into the next section, which is your materials and procedure of, okay, well, if I need certain adaptations for this resident, I need to include them in this materials section. So another thing that you might need to put in there is, let's say that the activity is something like yoga or something like therapeutic massage, because activities coordinators tend to coordinate these types of programs. And so something like massage especially is going to need a doctor's note or a doctor's recommendation. I know it certainly did when I was working in adult day. That was one of the things that we had to have, was we had to have a doctor's approval for that. So something like that would be listed in this requirement section. One of the nice features about having this section here for requirements is that it follows along with the federal regulations that state that an activity must be person or resident appropriate. So it opens up, excuse my wheeziness, excuse me, there we go. What it does is it opens up a conversation that you can have with nursing staff, with your own staff, with your administrator, that describes that the certain types of residents that would be appropriate or would gain the most benefit from this activity. If there's somebody that they're trying to figure out a way to engage them so that there are less behaviors, and this particular activity would not really fit for that person because it would not actually relieve that behavior, then if you list that kind of stuff in the requirement, it opens up that conversation that you can have. So it makes it very clear. The last section here, this is your materials and your procedure. So your procedure on the back, but your materials and your procedure, the important thing with writing a procedure is that it should be very specific. Write this as if you were not going to lead the program, even if you are. Because when you write something as if you're not going to lead it, it helps you to think of all the steps even further. It also makes it possible so that if you're absent one day and somebody's filling in for you, they can actually fill in using this sheet. It actually tells them the whole thing. The other nice thing is that if you save all of these, and I encourage you, if you choose to use these tools, save every activity plan you write, because they are great teaching tools. For if you get a new staff member in your program, you can teach them this process by showing them examples of it. And that is great because it helps to keep the right mindset in every single person that works for you in running activities, and that it makes sure that not only you are putting purpose into your programs, but so are your staff. So those are the 4 key components to writing a good, complete activities plan. I personally have found that when I have written these plans, that I've run really, really beneficial activities for residents and for participants in programs. It saves us time and it makes the activity smoother and it makes it more effective and more enjoyable for the residents receiving it. So that is my tip for the day. I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you like this particular topic, or if you'd like more topics like this, please give me a thumbs up down below. And also, please feel free to leave comments down in the comment section box. I will put a link to that printable that I created down below as well, so that you can go ahead and download that for yourself. Have a great month, and I'll see you next time.